Hey guys, Emmanuel here, and another year, another playoff exit by the Utah Jazz. If you've been living under a rock for the past 2 weeks, allow me to get you up to speed. So, the Utah Jazz were bounced out of the playoffs the other night, Thursday night, by the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks won the series 4-2, and although on the surface, when you look at it, it doesn't look as bad because the Mavericks were the 4th seed in the Western Conference and the Jazz were the 5th seed in the Western Conference, and you might say, well, it's just, it was that close, and the Jazz managed to take 2 games off of the Mavericks. When you look deeper into it, and if you actually watch the series, this is much worse than it actually looks. The sheer truth is the Jazz should have won this series. It should have been an easy series for them. It probably should have been like a 4-1 for them. Why? Because the Mavericks didn't even have their best player for half of the series. Their superstar, Luka Doncic, missed 3 of the 6 games that were played in this entire series. Luka missed games 1 through 3, right? And if the Jazz were a competent team, they would have utilized this once-in-a-lifetime golden opportunity to close out the series and move to the next round, but they didn't. And this isn't a one-off thing. This isn't a fluke. This is something that is recurrent with the Jazz. Because if you remember last year, the Jazz were also bounced out by a team that was hobbled and injury-ridden, the Los Angeles Clippers. Last year, the Clippers were missing Kawhi Leonard for the entire series that they played against the Jazz. And somehow, some way, the Clippers still managed to beat the Utah Jazz. Also, it's even worse because when you go back another year, the same exact thing happened to the Utah Jazz. Listen, the Jazz in 2020 got 4 months off because of the COVID break, and then they were the 4th seed in the playoffs that year, and again they were bounced out by the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games. And what's worse is this time around, when they lost to the Mavericks, the last shot that was taken had a chance. There was a chance that the Jazz could have won that game and go back for a game 7. But the guy who took the shot, I forget what his name is, completely missed the shot. Didn't miss, you know what I mean? And so there's a clear problem here with the Utah Jazz. So what is it? Well, to me, there are multiple problems with the Utah Jazz, like Quinn Snyder, Rudy Gobert, etc., etc. But I'll get to that later. But one thing that is true about the Utah Jazz is the fact that they are in no man's land. They are in limbo. And for my reoccurring viewers, you know what I mean by this statement. But for my new viewers, I'm going to explain to you what this statement means and what I mean by this. Basically, the limbo or no man's land is a place in which no sports team in North America ever wants to find themselves in. Whether it is basketball, hockey, football, baseball, it's not a pleasant place to be. And this place is where a team is mediocre, middle of the pack. They're good enough to make the playoffs, but they're not good enough to do anything in the playoffs. They're not good enough to win any series, go anywhere, right? But they're also not bad enough to the point where they're going to get any lottery picks, right? Because listen, if the Jazz were bad enough in 2020, right, to get lottery picks, and let's say they were able to get like LaMelo Ball. You get LaMelo Ball, that changes your franchise, that changes the trajectory of your franchise. But because they were middle of the pack, either 4th, 5th seed every time, right, you're gonna get in there and you're gonna play against a team that's slightly better than you, you're out. And then you do the same thing again next year, as opposed to if you were like the 8th seed, or if you barely made the playoffs through the play-in tournament, or if you had lottery picks from trades, you could get, you know, a young star that could help you. But that's not the case for the Utah Jazz. Furthermore, the thing with Utah is not a free agent destination. Nobody ever goes to Utah. When was the last time a superstar, you heard of a superstar, sign with the Utah Jazz? No one goes there. And so that is the thing with the Utah Jazz. They have to draft well and develop well if they ever want to compete seriously in the NBA. So I commend them and tip my hat off to them for drafting well and developing well to the point where they can be a middle of the pack playoff team. But if they ever want to go further, they have to do better. They have to draft a superstar. They have to draft someone that's going to change their team permanently. Like Donovan Mitchell is good, but he's not that good. He's not good enough, right? And so the Utah Jazz find themselves between a rock and a hard place. And how do they fix it? Well, the way you always fix the situation in my book is You gotta blow it up. That is the solution here. You have to restart it. Listen, this team has had ample time to prove themselves. This team has had a lot of time to get something done. They've had a lot of runs, but this team has run its course. Time to move on. First of all, the Utah Jazz have to get rid of everybody except for Donovan Mitchell because he's good, but I'll get to him later. Quinn Snyder, the head coach, has to go because no coach should be able to keep their job after consecutively losing in the playoffs against two teams that were injury-ridden and hobbled and weren't ready to even go deep into the playoffs. They were a token playoff team, right? And that's what I feel the Mavericks were when Luka wasn't playing. Like, I'm not saying the Mavericks aren't good, but when Luka wasn't there, I felt like they weren't supposed to go anywhere, right? I think last year, the Clippers weren't supposed to go anywhere. And so Quinn Snyder, if you're a competent coach, if you're a good coach, you have to make that weak point about your opponent your point of focus. You have to attack that chink in the armor until it cracks. You have to get your players to understand, listen, they are a wounded animal. We got to put them out of their misery. And he failed to do that. And that's why I think he has to go. You got to get rid of him, right? Number 2, Rudy Gobert. Utah have to trade Rudy Gobert because ever since 2020, when Rudy Gobert ended up giving some of his teammates COVID because he was touching the mics and playing around and thinking COVID wasn't serious, and him and Donovan Mitchell had a falling out, their relationship has not been the same ever since. And that relationship affects the team, right? And furthermore, for all the praise that Rudy Gobert gets for being a good defender, I've seen him be put in a blender one too many times. Too many times I've seen Rudy Gobert spinning around like he doesn't know what's going on because the guard is just putting the moves on him, right? He is so slow in the paint, right? Like, he can block shots, but he's so slow in the paint, and he's so slow on a perimeter, especially the perimeter, that it makes him a liability. Furthermore, he isn't great at one thing. There's not a thing that he does really, really well. Like, he's not a high volume scorer or a high volume distributor, right? So to me, his value isn't that high. So he's got to go. And so the only person that remains on this team is Donovan Mitchell. But even he has some blame. Just like Quinn Snyder, the head coach, is responsible for his team not being able to get past injury-ridden teams, Donovan Mitchell, being the de facto star of the team, has to take blame. If you want to be the guy, the man on the team, right, the all-star, the guy that wants to be the MVP in the future, you have to put away these half teams. Because that's what I'm going to call them. These injury-ridden, not fully healthy teams. You cannot let them beat you. You have to put the team on your back, score 40 points if you have to. You have to get it done. LeBron did it all the time. All the greats do it, right? Kobe would have done it. All the greats do it. That's not an excuse. Like, how do you lose to a Mavericks team that doesn't have Luka Doncic? Like, I don't get it. There should be no reason, right? So even though he's good, he still has some blame to bear, right? And those are the guys that I'm blaming the most, and their consequences, right? Quinn Snyder has to get fired. I think he's going to find a job in the NBA. He's good enough to get another job in the NBA. If not this year with the Lakers, he'll probably do an assistant coach job and then get a coaching job somewhere else, maybe in 2 years or a year. But yeah, that I think is the solution for the Jazz. They have to blow it up, get pieces, get actual valuable pieces, or they have to go through the draft again. And that is the truth about the Utah Jazz. And if you have watched all the way to the end, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Emmanuel Cameo. This has been League Talk. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, drop a like for the algorithm, and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, kids.